Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Madisonville Marine. Selection, it's the widest in East Tennessee. Prices, the best in East Tennessee. Customer service, well, there's a reason Madisonville Marine is closing in on 40 years in the boat business here in East Tennessee. Another reason is Bob Hodge went down there and bought a boat. Bob, your thoughts on Madisonville Marine?
Right now, it's the best of both worlds. You turkey hunt out of your boat.
That's pretty strong. turkey hunt right out of your boat. All right.
But it's not fair having the turkeys in the boat.
What boat did you get there? G3?
G3.
Like it?
Love it.
Okay.
Yamaha outboard. You want me to keep going?
No, that's good enough. The plug would have been better than the turkey joke, but that's all right. All right. Tennessee held a semi-scrimmage yesterday, as they're not just 1 week, and they're now just 1 week away from the orange and white game. Takeaways at this point. Is it quarterback situation? You're starting to see some separation, it appears, between Worley Ferguson and then Dobbs Peterman. Is that the big takeaway at this point, or is it the questionable line play? Thoughts?
I will go with the questionable line play because what I have heard from people is not only is this group quite a bit smaller than last year's group, they're nowhere near as athletic. And that is a bad combination in the SEC because I thought last year's offensive line, as many of those guys may end up in the NFL, they struggled against the really good defensive lines. They did fine against the lesser defensive lines, but the really good ones, they didn't play so well. And so now you're getting smaller and less athletic, and I think that's going to be a real problem.
I'm going to add one other thing to that. You're not as physical either. And that was not, they're just not as strong. These guys have not played much. They're younger. This Coleman Thomas is going to be good, but right now he doesn't have SEC strength. Blair's the same way at left tackle, so that's going to be an issue too. The quarterback situation, I think there's some separation, but you want it to be separation for the right reason. You don't want it to be because the third and fourth string guys are playing horrible. From what I've seen, Worley and Ferguson look to be pretty decent. You know, they can still get better. They still have too many key turnovers, but those two look to be ahead of the other two.
I think it's a little surprising that Dobbs has taken a step backwards out of that group. I thought it would be Dobbs and Ferguson at the top of the list. I thought he showed some things last year that made you think, okay, this guy could develop into an SEC quarterback. So I'm a little surprised that he's fallen back. Thoughts on quarterback situation, O-line, D-line, whatever you want to say?
Boy, what I'm hearing from you guys is when does basketball season start next year?
Well, that you're still a couple of recruiting classes away from where you want to be. And I guess yesterday it was, Butch Jones has got some dance moves, doesn't he?
Yeah, the dance moves were about that may be one of the takeaways for spring so far.
Hey, I better dance here.
Let's talk about the quarterback situation a little bit more. I'm not trying to knock Justin Worley, but I think we saw, and I think we've discussed this before, Justin Worley appeared to have a ceiling. Now maybe this year he really takes a turn around the corner, but if Worley walks out in the fall and is either your starter or your co-starter, I don't see that as being a good thing. Am I wrong on that one?
I don't think you're wrong, but I'll tell you why it may not be a bad thing is because if the offensive line doesn't develop any better than it does, and Ferguson is your other guy, and he's inexperienced, do you really want him to go out there and it be all up to him behind a bad offensive line with the SEC competition? If him and Worley are sort of breaking things up a little bit and you can ease Ferguson into it and you say, okay, we've got 3 more years of him, that may be a better thing if this offensive line doesn't get any better.
Well, and you also have a young receiving core, talented but young, and you may have Jalen Hurd as your running back. It may pay to have a more experienced quarterback there to make sure everybody knows what they do. But to your point, I do think Worley has a ceiling. And that's what concerns you a little bit about where this team is going to go this year.
And on top of the ceiling, too, maybe that's part of what you're saying
That would
is
be
the
the
lack of mobility. is they can show more mobility, especially if you've got an offensive line that's not able to block people. I mean, that was one of the things we saw last year, that in this type of offense, you need to be able at times to be able to pick up 5 yards, even if you're just running for your life.
It's another reason I think it may be a disappointment that Dobbs hasn't kind of kept pace with the top two.
I'll just be the devil's advocate here. Okay. Worley's ceiling was good enough to beat South Carolina. He was playing pretty good. He had improved when he got hurt. Of the 3 we saw last year, I thought he gave him the best chance to win. to me, Ferguson's still the wild card.
Okay, I think that's fair. Next week, we're going to have a full breakdown of the orange and white game, have some of your standard favorites here. I did want to make one thing clear, though. A few weeks ago, I had said that we would have Eric Berry on the show. I was assured by his handlers that he would be here. Checked back this week and said, all right, we're still to go, right? You let me promote this. And they said, oh, there's been a conflict. So I don't want anybody tuning in next week to say, Pennington lied. He's not here. So we're going to have a. That's the way a lot of people talk. He lied. You're gonna grab your walker and you're gonna shake it. But anyway, we will have a full show next week. Just didn't want anybody to think I was guilty of false advertising. Conflict has changed that up, but we will have a full orange and white breakdown next week. Should be a lot of fun. When we come back, what type of basketball program does Tennessee have? A lot of discussion about this in recent weeks. Is it a top 15 program, top 20, top 30? We'll take a look at the top 50 programs in the country by wins all time and see where Tennessee ranks, Final Fours. We'll discuss a lot of stuff. Come on back on the Sports Source.